So we've got an opening shot of a lovely TR909, a TR808, a couple of TB303s. Of course, there's a 606 there. We're not going to talk about that today because we're going to talk about this. Yes, it's the TR8, and this, it's the TB3. Now, where do I begin? I mean, really, what do you want me to say? Well, I'm pretty sure you've heard all the arguments so far, and you've had all the reviews, and everyone's had a chance to have a go at one. And I'm sure there's some of you out there still are in question. There's still, I've been posting pictures of these units, especially this one, and this one has been getting more contentious. They've been going up on my Facebook, and some people just won't have it, and some people are convinced, and the rest of the people who are interested in this, watch on, because basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these machines to the ultimate test. I'm going to put them up, the 909 emulation up against the 909. I'm going to put it up against the 808. I'm going to put it up against two 303s on the TB3. So because everyone says every TB303 sounds different, and it's true. So let's have a listen to where Roland modelled their TB3 from. But there's a funny one that I put this picture up on Facebook yesterday. Now have a look at this. Now, to me, that's just what the fuck. That's just a prop. This is supposedly the Aira video where the guy is taking apart the pristine 303 and he's measuring it, and that's what they're modelling it from. That's utter crap, because if you look at the circuit board of this one, it looks like someone stamped on it. It does. I mean, that is typically what we call a stamper, because it's either been dropped or stepped on, and because of the way the tempo and the volume controls are mounted on the circuit boards, it results in this kind of cracking across various traces on the really crappy old PCBs. And well, there we go. You got a stamper there. Thanks, Roland. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the show. I'm going to do some setups here. I'm going to set you up with everything, and we're going to have a listen. And let's have an open mind, people. Okay, here we have it. We've set up for Aira, however you want to call it. I think it's Aira now. Versus a real TR808. I mean, what's the first impression you have here is they look very similar. With the coloured buttons here, the way this ships out the box. Now, I just want to talk about these before we start here. Talk a bit about this unit. I picked this up when I was working in the studio here in Sweden a few years back. Completely fixed. It had broken cowbell and stuff. You've probably seen the videos online of that. And then since I've done some other work on it, leveling and restoring it to as much as I can, get it as close as possible. And you notice it's got all the inserts. Now this one actually doesn't have all the inserts. These are the original knobs. I kind of shaved off the tops, and I bought some stickers from Jeff at customsynth.co.uk. They were on eBay. They were like £5 or something. I totally recommend these because he sends you enough that you can replace them if you need to. Because the old ones, the original knobs had these kind of plastic inserts, and over time they had a small over lip on the top of the knob, and over time what would happen was it would kind of break off a little bit like a broken fingernail, kind of a hangnail, and they would just fall off, and then the inside caps will come out. And I was completely fed up with that, so like I say, I just gently ground the tops of these off with a Dremel, holding the shaft, not to damage it. Stuck these stickers on from Jeff, and it looks as good as new almost. Well, in the camera, I'm sure it does in the camera anyway. And also, this was featured. This particular unit was featured on an American cable company show. Something about Heavy D and the Boys. They basically contacted me through the website, and they wanted some material for their video or whatever it was. There's some television program. And they used one of the pictures of this unit, so that's in there, and I got a small royalty for that, which is quite nice. Anyway, over here we're looking at the Aira, the TR8. Initially, it looks kind of similar. I mean, it doesn't. This has more to do with the 909, and this has more to do with the 808. So we can sit, and definitely this is almost like a 707 influence. So, I mean, it really has kind of a TR heritage to it. I mean, in the approach to the design. But yeah, I mean, you can see these things are running now because I'm running Logic and I'm recording the audio track with Logic, and I want these things to be synced. So it's just easier to have them running. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through on the fly I've put an accent on step 1 of both units. And then I'm just going to play the individual instruments, and then we can have a listen to them and see how they really compare, like side by side. I mean, properly, because we saw that guy who was doing that 909 thing. He was going, "Yeah, I don't need it." No, mate. No, I didn't just get this 5 minutes ago. I've actually spent some time with these units because I'm really interested in this subject, and I know a lot of you guys, you're looking at my blog, and you're looking at, I get a lot of people coming through for repairs and stuff, but a lot of people are going to take my word for it. So I want to make sure this is done right. I don't want to say, yeah, it's great. I mean, I had to buy this unit. There's no financial thing here. I've got nothing to gain. And my initial reaction is, I like this unit. But I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to show you why. And let's see. Anyway, on with it. Let's have a bass drum from the 808, shall we? We'll do that full volume. I'm just going to look at the door here so it's not clipping. Oh, it's clipping a little bit. I'll back that down a bit. Okay, yeah, so that's right on the limit there, and the knobs are kind of centralized here. Now, another thing is, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just using, because this is essentially a mono machine and the stereo concept wasn't really introduced until the 909, I'm just going to use the main mono output. So I think this is kind of vital also to the way the summing works, because if I was going to buy one of these units to use it today to record, I'm not going to be using the digital integration. I don't like all that shit. I want to run it through like an analog stage somewhere along the line and get something, because you can always EQ it later. But yeah, I kind of like running through an analog stage. So anyway, that's the 808 bass drum. I'll turn that down to a minute. Let's have a listen to it on the Aira or the TR8. And that is the maximum volume without the compression, because that's completely switched off. That has a little bit less energy. This is the 808 again. Yeah, I mean, straight away you can. I mean, if you're wearing a pair of you've got some decent monitors there, or decent pair of headphones, you can instantly hear the difference. It's a very similar sound, but there's a lot less energy here. So perhaps the analog circuitry is compressing it, because this is the 808. Let's turn that one down again. Let's turn this one back up, and then turn up this compression. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's a little bit closer. 808. And in fact, that's a bit louder now. Let's turn it down a bit. Yeah, this one's a little bit boomier, so let's just turn the decay down. Now, you've got variations on the drum kits. I'm not going to go into every single detail of all the kits, because I would be here till next week if I did that. So, no, we're not going to be doing that, but that's the 808. And that's the TR8. Now, let's just open up the tone to maximum, the decay to maximum on the 808. And that's the real boom. And it's still not clipping, luckily. And you can see I've turned the master down, but this one is going to be turned all the way up. So I'm going to turn the decay up, and the tune, actually the tone, which is the attack on this, because this it's just labelled for like a 9. These are 909 labels for sure. I kind of looking at this, I'm thinking, I actually thought to myself, maybe they designed this for the 909, and then they realised later that they could actually change it to an 808 as well. I'm not sure. You never know on their design choices. But the actual layout of the controls is very 909. I mean, everything's 909 layout. I mean, so it makes me kind of question if maybe that was an afterthought. Because, we had all this sort of secrecy with the launch, and everything wasn't ready yet. Excuse me. And, maybe that's the reason. Maybe they thought, oh, that's a really good idea. We've got this platform now. Yeah. Anyway, that's pure speculation. But that's the 808 kick. Right, now let's turn the attack decay up. Let's have a listen to the Aira TR8 kick. That's a little bit more boomy. We'll turn the compression down again. I want to see what happens now if I turn the compression completely off. And that's the TR8. Yeah, the 808's again now it's still a little bit punchier. But if we turn up the compression, we can kind of match it. And the tuning's very similar. there's definitely a little bit difference, a small subtle difference, but that could be the variation between this unit and the broken up, beaten up one they had at Roland. You know, they didn't have as much as nice unit as this one to do their development with or something. I don't know. Yeah, I think we kind of highlight there that we need to compress the kick on the TR8 to sound similar to the 808. Now, that obviously the obvious biggest difference here is that we now have a tuning control. And you know, you can tune it all the way, but at 12 o'clock it seems to be that the tuning's just about right. I mean, it's, you know. Okay, let's have a look at the snare. This is the 808 snare. The controls for tone and snappy are at 12 o'clock. And this is the TR8. With the controls at 12, oh, let's turn the compression off. Those are controls at 12 o'clock, and instantly we need to turn the decay up, I think. I just want to make sure I've got an accent on that stuff. Yeah, I do. And as you can hear, TR8, 808, and it's instantly, there's a difference. I mean, there's a glaring difference actually. That's the 808, 12 o'clock on the tone, 12 o'clock on the snappy, and 12 o'clock on the snappy on this one, and 12 o'clock on the tune, and maximum decay on the TR8, and it sounds like this. Yeah, that's quite different. So let's try and tune this to that. So, because as it's been mentioned, Larry was saying that the tunings were off on the 808, and I think he's right. So let's have a listen to this together. Try and get them as matched as much as possible. That's a bit closer. Right, that's the 808. And this is the TR8 with the snappy at maximum now. And the snappy on this one's only halfway. 808, it's got a bit more bottom end to it as well, I can hear in the headphones. Yeah, this one, it's a bit thinner, it's definitely a bit thinner. And let's turn up the tone and the decay to maximum. And that's the 808. And we'll do the same on the TR8. All controls at maximum, except for the compression. TR8. 808. And I just want to point out here, because there's quite a glaring difference here. The volume on this is on maximum. I haven't yet turned the compressor up, so let's have a listen if we can match it that way. Now, that's a lot closer. If we turn the compression up, it's a lot closer in the sound to this. So it may well just be a volumes thing. Because obviously this being an analog unit, it's clipping, perhaps clipping, but it's not clipping on the door. I'll just say that. But maybe it's clipping internally on the output stage, and it's giving it a little bit. You know, this is why we use analog basically. TR8 snare. That's with maximum knobs, and for the 808 snare, it's still a little bit brighter. Still got a little bit more balls. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, it's analog, this is digital, but what did you expect? Right, let's move on to the toms. Well, let's do just one tom, because these are essentially the same instrument. So I'm going to use the mid-tom, and we're doing mid-tom on the TR8. Mid-tom here, tuning at 50%. Let's have a listen to it on the TR8. And let's make sure that it's actually not a conga, because you have to edit the kicks here. Let's have a look. There we go. But basically, the toms and the congas are very similar sounds. It's just they've got different tuning range. So we can just listen to the mid tom. That's enough here, I think. But medium tuning, mid tuning, full volume, medium decay. That's the 808. A little bit more punchy, but very similar sound. Very good, this one. But a little bit less power here. If we turn the decay up on this one. No, see, if you turn the decay up on that, it doesn't sound right. Because they don't decay that much. Yeah, I mean, that's the 808. And this is the same sound, actually, exactly the same tom sound as what you get in the 606. And it sounds about right, but it's definitely, there is a subtle difference there. I'm going to shut up and listen to that again. This is the 808 mid-tom. And this is the TR8 mid-tom. And again, I want to emphasise that the volume of this is at maximum. The volume of this has been turned down, and I'm also accenting both of the steps on both machines. So that's as close as I can get them in volume levels without turning this one down more. This is as loud as it goes. And this is what I was saying about the... I had a conversation with Roland about some of these levels, and they kind of blatantly denied it, that there was any problem with the levels, but there blatantly is, and there has been for a lot of machines. So hopefully they'll fix some of these things in a firmware update. But anyway, let's have a listen to the rim shot. Okay, rim shot on the TR808. And let's get the rim shot on the TR8. Sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? Let's just adjust the settings here a little bit so we can make it sound more like the 808. It still doesn't sound right. Let me make sure this is the right instrument as well. Yeah, no, that's it. That's the sound. This is the 808. Now I'm trying to match the tuning here. That's the 808. Well, it's about 12 o'clock. It doesn't seem right. There's something wrong here with the sound, fundamentally. There is a difference. And I'll turn the decay up on this one. And if I turn it down, it just becomes a click, but... That's the 808. Yeah, it doesn't sound right, does it? 808. And this is the TR8. Yeah, so we actually have a difference there. I mean, it's kind of subtle. If you're a purist, maybe you're going to notice that. Maybe that's going to bother you. Let's have a listen to the next sound here, which would be the claves. And we just have to switch it over here because it shares the channel on the 808. So let's turn that up. Let's listen to the TR8. Yeah, that's identical. Or at least very subtly similar. 808. TR8. 808. TR8. Yeah, well done. That one's really good, that one. Now, the next one. This is another important sound. It's the clap. So let's go to the claps. I mean, for me, the 808 clap is probably my favourite clap of all the Roland boxes. I mean, I like the 909 and the Dr. Rhythm claps as well, but the 808 clap is my favourite. And what was the guy who I remember famously seeing, the guy who designed it said it sounded like someone breaking some bamboo. Well, that sounds awesome, mate. It doesn't sound like a clap, but it sounds like bamboo, and it's an awesome sound. And here it is. Now, the technical guys among you, and I know you're there. Hello, Stacey. Yeah. You know, these are formed with basically trigger pulses on white noise, well, or pseudo white noise, depending on the circuit. Now let's have a listen to it on a TR8. Let me just set this up. And here we go. Yep. This is TR8. It's actually very similar. Perhaps the tails are a little different. The tuning is a bit different. Let's try and fix that. Yeah, that's better. That's the TR808 and the Aira version. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, you can't really go wrong, let's face it. It's just a bunch of square waves, you know, filtered. You can't go wrong with that. If you get that wrong, well, then just give up. Okay. The maracas. Oh, let's have a listen. I don't think the maracas sounded so good on the TR8. I have to set this up. Let me just switch. This is a good and bad thing, is this kit selection. I think they could have done a little bit better on that. Like, you could just either like hold the kit. If Roland, if you're listening to this is a really good tip. You could actually hold the instrument button and just cycle through on the button here really quickly, rather than going to this extra step of another menu and choosing. You could just let us cycle through the sounds real quick. It'd be awesome. Yeah. Okay. Right. Just write that down. But yeah, let's have a listen to the maraca. Let me just go to the kit instrument for this one, and I think it's that one there. Yeah, there we go. This is the TR8 maraca sound, and this is the 808. It's very similar. I mean, it's formed from the same circuit. It's just a little bit louder on the TR808, I think, but it's a very similar sound. Okay, now the cowbell. Yeah, this is the Miami Bass Lovers Wet Dream, this one. Now, it's been a while since I calibrated this cowbell, but I'm assuming that the last time I calibrated it, which is before I moved house, it was correctly tuned. It probably is. Alright, let's have a listen to it on the TR8. One thing you notice is the order is different. Like I say, this is a TR909 order. And let's put a cowbell in. Yeah, that's the TR8. Let's see if we can adjust it. Yeah, that's about right. The decay is different now. There we go. That's the TR8. And apart from the volume level, I'll turn this one down a little bit. Yeah, there is a difference. I mean, is it a good or bad difference? They're close enough, pretty much. I mean, for the amount of times you're actually going to use the cowbell, I mean, most people I know who've got TR808s actually use the cowbell to trigger their modulars, and they don't actually listen to it. It's good enough. Alright, let's get on, let's crack on here to the cymbals. This is one of my favourite sounds on the 808. Let's get the cymbal up. Here we go. Now I've got the controls here at 12 o'clock again. Put one in. And that's just way too long. The decay is not, it's not even finishing. But that's another point I have to get to, with is there is a problem here with the Aira stuff and pre-roll on Logic. Now, again, I spoke to the support about this, and they're denying it. They're saying it's Logic's fault. But I just said to them, look, I've got tons of gear here, and I really do have tons of gear here, and everything, just nothing has a problem with pre-roll except for the TR8. And this basically means that if you, and what I discovered is if this problem with pre-roll, I mean, obviously, if you've got a sync system and other systems, you need stuff to be kind of armed and ready to go before you press go. That's the point of pre-roll. Basically, the TR8, when it gets an ARM instruction, I mean, I actually haven't even studied this, but I'm kind of speculating here a little bit. But what I suspect is that it's when it gets an ARM instruction, if the delay between get ready and go is too long, it fails. It doesn't get the go. Because if you set it to 135 BPM or faster, this problem disappears. This is why I'm recording at 140 BPM, these drum tracks. Under 135 BPM, and you get intermittent start-stop when you use pre-roll. Now, they reckon it's Logic's fault. I don't know. And if you have this problem, you should write to your Roland support, because they won't fix these things unless they get a lot of people actually mailing to them. So that's kind of important. If you have any of these problems and you agree when you get your machines that you have these problems, then write into Roland about it. Anyway, the cymbal. That's the 808. Nice and long. Let's listen to the TR8 cymbal. Similar. That's the 808. That's the TR8. Again, let's try and make them sound the same. TR8 is this one. So the tune is a bit high. Well, it's different. And I can't tune it in. Because the tone control is what the tune is, and it's not actually the tune, it's just the filter. I mean, tone really is just another word for the filter settings. Like there's certain frequency. So yeah, again, TR8 is kind of lacking here if you want a perfect 808 emulation. But it's still a great sound, listen to it. And I think this is an important point. It might not be a perfect 808 emulation, but it certainly still sounds good. And it's got the TR workflow. And dare I say, working on something like this might actually be easier than working on something that's 30 years old and has no copy and paste ability. Yeah? I mean, a lot of people, the first thing I saw is a lot of people were complaining that you didn't have these parameter locks because they're used to that from the Electron stuff and they want to record the knob positions. Get yourself a drum station or something like that. This is supposed to kind of give you the feeling of having one of these machines, and by not having permanent presets, which is what a lot of the modular people like. They don't like these presets. They want to have just the kit. They want, you just want to turn the knobs and make the sounds, and that's what it's all about, and it delivers. Anyway, one last thing before we finish this one and move on to the next machine. Let's have a listen to the hi-hats. Now, let's see. We've got a closed hi-hat here on the 808. Now I'm going to just set another accent in so we can get the accent on the 5th and 10th step. Sorry, the 9th step. And I'm going to put 3 hats in. The middle one I'm going to turn off. That's going to be an open hat. So it's a closed hat, open hat, and then the last one will be both together. So you're getting the 3 hi-hat sounds. You're getting the first hat, which is the closed hat. You're getting the open hat, and you're getting the choked hat, which is the open and closed hat together. and it gives you a completely different sound. Now, we put the open hi-hat decay here to the middle. Now, let's program the same thing on the TR8 in the same way. Right? Bear in mind, I put the hats in for the three closed hats after the accents, and then the open hats. Right? And let's see. We'll take that one away. Open hat. And let's turn the 808 down. Try and tune it a little bit. Again, apart from the obvious difference in the volume, are you listening, Roland? They've accurately emulated the three sounds. However, the tuning is a little bit wrong. When I say accurately, I mean that that when you're striking two together, you get that kind of choke sound. That's the TR8. This is the TR808. And you can hear the sounds are very similar. It just seems to be the fundamental tuning is different. And perhaps they can fix this. It would be nice to see it, because if you do the tuning on the TR8, it's more like filters. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh no, maybe it's a bit better. Let's see if we can match that now. That's the 808. Well, it's not the same again. That's the 808. But this is still a good sound. I mean, this is still a very reusable sound. It doesn't sound the same as this unit. But I've had units that sound different. I've had two 606s where they had the subtle difference in the tuning was enough to make me think, well, I want this one and I don't want that one because this one sounds better. And this is the case also with one of my 303s. The one I'll talk about that later when we do the TB3 section. But these subtle differences could be that their reference unit was different to my unit. But that doesn't change. That only changes the tuning part of the sound. It doesn't actually change the texture and the actual fullness, because this is definitely got a fuller sound than this, but this is still good. Anyway, let's move on and look at it compared to a 909. Okay, here we are. We're set up now with the TR8 on this side and a 909 here, and the only reason for that is that the 909 normally sits here, so it's just easier with the power connection and stuff. Okay, well, first I should talk about this machine a little bit. This is an early serial number. I mean, this is the really early one. This has what we call the softer bass drum, and it has the softer toms. Now, the model on this one, I believe, is from a version 3, version 4 RUM, late 909. Now, depending who you are, I mean, if you're more techno, you're going to want a late 909. If you're you want that more analogy 808 kind of bounce, you want an early 909. Now, for me, this is perfect because now I have here a late 909 model, and I have because I've often thought, should I go inside and do the revisions? Now, if you've got an early one, you're free to do that. You can get the schematics on the blog, of course, and you can just change it. You can change it revision. I mean, I've thought about that, but I've also thought, maybe I should keep it stock. But anyway, I bought this on eBay some years ago, and I paid the going rate. Yeah, we won't tell the wife what that was. And I had it for a week, and I immediately had problems. And so the first thing I'll do, I'm talking to Rob Senso, and he's like, "Oh, it's just been through the post. What do you reckon?" Yeah, so I basically bought some chips from him, went through, and I solved it. It was just it was actually just a CMOS that had screwed up. But yeah, long story short, I fixed it. And then about a year later, I had the power issue. Now, in the winter, we kind of have bad power in Sweden, so I recapped the power supply and I did the diode change. That's one revision. If you've got an early 909, you should do, is change the diode in the power supply. Just look at the service notes. If you don't know how to do that, get someone who does know how to do that. It's a really simple job if you know what you're doing. You just swap a diode, and if you've got kind of unstable power, which you tend to have sometimes in the winter, it won't reset itself. Anyway, as you can see, I've got these running again, just like we did before on the 808 video, and I've already programmed one step in each of these. Now, look at this volume level. Roland says there's no problems with the volume. Right, we're using the main output again, just a single channel on both machines, so we get the idea of what it sounds like going through the main outs. And you can see the bass drum level, well, you can't see, but you have to take my word for it. The bass drum level on the 909 is at maximum with total accent, and it sounds like this. Now, you see how low this one is? We turn this one up. Very similar volume. This is off the scale, mate. Honestly, Roland, this is off the scale. Because look at the level here. If I turn this up, it's just going to clip. What's going on? Yeah, I understand what's going on here. This is even without the compression. What they want is, this is giving you the booming techno box that you want to do when you're on stage with your DJ set. Bollocks, yeah. I mean, what do you want me to say here? I mean, this is without the internal compression on, and already here it's too loud. I mean, well, if we're comparing it to the original machine, of course. Full volume on the main out. And that is still louder than the 909. So yeah, there's definitely a volume issue here, so you have to bear that in mind. So anyway, let's try and make them sound the same. This one sounds, it's got a little bit more decay on it. That's a bit closer. 909 is tuned a bit higher as well. Let's try that. So you can't really tune it high because you end up, because it's like one of these ramp tunings. You get that's what gets that 909 sound. So the more we increase this, the more kind of elastic it's going to get. Like when you go to maximum, it's got that whoop sound to it. Now if we turn this one up, yeah, we get a bit closer there. But as I say, this is an early 909 kick, so it isn't really a fair comparison. Okay, here's the 909 now with all the controls maxed. Let's do the same thing on the TR8, but not the compression. We'll leave that at the minimum. That's definitely a way more hyped sound already. You can hear that's just like too much oomph. Let's turn that one down. See, this is a much different sound. They've almost EQ'd this wrongly to give it it's hyped. It sounds hyped to me. That's the TR8. Maximum tuning, maximum attack. I mean, the attack is just like the transient click, and the maximum decay. No compression. And the same settings over here. A very different sound. Because what a lot of people don't realise, especially when they buy a machine like the TR909 and they get it home and they want to make techno, it doesn't sound anything like the techno they're used to listening to. Because you have to process these machines a little bit to get that kind of pounding sound that you want. Okay, let's have a listen to the TR8 snare drum. And on the 909. Okay, the tuning knob settings is completely wrong. Let's have a look if we can. I'll just go to the minimum values on all the parameters on the 909, and we'll start there. We'll do the same thing here. So let's listen to the TR8 again. $909. It's kind of similar. I'm actually not aware of any real changes in the snare drum circuit. I do believe the only major changes between the serials were obviously the firmware and the bass drum and the toms and rim shot. I think everything else stayed the same pretty much. That's the real 909. Let's open the snappy to maximum. So this is a 909 with everything at minimum except for the snappy, which is maximum. Right, let's go back to the TR8, turn the snappy to maximum. Let's have a listen to that. Well, instantly you hear the bass tuning's different. That's the 909. It's much tightly tuned, tightly tuned. This is lower, and this is the TR8. So let's just see if we can turn that up a bit. There we go. Right, that's a TR8. The tune is at 12 o'clock. It's not quite as the same. Anyway, it's similar. So we'll turn the tone up on the 909 to 50%. And let's do the same over here, which I would imagine that would be the decay. No, that is not quite the same, I think. Right, tuning 50% here. Oh, way too loud. Yeah, the controls are slightly different here. Even though they appear to be labelled the same, they're not. Because we have tune snappy here, and we have tune and level because the level's here. So we actually have one control extra, but there's this knob is. So yeah, the compression knob is taking the place of where the tone knob is. And there is no tone knob marked here, so it's a little bit guesswork. But I imagine this would be decay here. Yeah, that's decay on the sound, but that is the same as the tone, or the snappy, because these controls kind of work together. So yeah, I mean, the emulation is very good here, but it's not 100% accurate. Especially as the controls a little bit different as well, because I'm having difficulty tuning them in exactly. Because the oscillator, it seems like the oscillator portion of the snare drum isn't right. Because you listen to it on the 909, it's the oscillator portion of the sound. Let's take the snappy down. You can hear that's a bit more pronounced. If I turn the snappy down on the TR8, it has less ring to the tone. This is, the noise portion has been essentially switched off, and that is just the raw oscillator sound for the other part of the snare sound. And it's not ringing. It doesn't ring. It's very, very dampened. Well, on the 909, if you listen to that carefully, you can hear there's a ringing on there. If we can increase that, you can hear it a bit more pronounced now because in the higher register. Well, let's just turn this one up again. Decay all the way up. Tune up. You don't have that ring. There's no tails there. There's something you've missed, Roland. You've got decay at maximum, snappy off. There's no noise put in the portion, no compression, just tune at maximum, decay at maximum. Turn it up a bit. There's no ringing. Let's listen to the 909 again. Can you hear the tails on the end of that sound? Even though it's not as loud, there's a ringing there. And there's none here. So, what is ACB? Well, it's not this. And there you have it. We found another small difference. Is it a major difference? Not really, because you're not really listening to that sound. If you want it authentic, of course, you're not even going to be looking at this machine. But if you want a tight budget and you want something that sounds like this, this is it. I mean, you know, it's still a TR. Let's not forget that. I mean, I think this is very important that people realise that the TR8 is the TR8. It's not a 909. It's not an 808. It has those sounds and it has the ability for more sounds, apparently. Which is also, let's not forget, this is also a rumour. I did actually ask Roland to confirm this, and well, they didn't deny it. They said there was new sounds coming. They didn't say it was going to be 707, and I asked if it was going to be CR sounds, because I think people would be more interested in CR sounds than over 707, or both. Let's have both, please. Yeah, they didn't answer anything. They didn't say any. They didn't confirm the rumour. So, because the only place I've seen the 707 mentioned is once on the YouTube clip, and the guy might have just made a mistake, or they may have, you know, it's not official until it's official. Anyway, let's move on to the next sound, shall we? And again, to the tom section. So, let's do what we did on the 808 video, and we used the mid tom. And let's just select that over here. One thing is, it's the workflow's a little bit easier here. On here, you've got some of these Vulcan nerve pinches to actually do anything. Okay, we've got a mid-tom. Let's switch it on with a double accent. That's another thing. That's a gripe some people have got. You can switch on the double accent and input like you have on a 909, but it's backwards. I don't use that. I prefer to hold the instrument and put the half accent in manually like that. It just works easier for me. Anyway, because the other way is wrong. There's another thing that Roland got wrong. But we're not really here to poke holes in this stuff, because I do think the TR8 and the whole Aira range is actually pretty decent. It's a lot of fun. Let's not forget this. These are instruments made to have fun with. Okay, let's have a listen to the mid-tom. Again, we're going to listen to the tom section, but it's basically, we'll just take one of them because they're essentially the same instrument, different tuning. So we'll take the mid one. And this is what it sounds like on the TR8. The decay is at 50%. The tuning, it's a little bit off center. And let's listen to this one. This is the 909. TR8. 909. They're very similar sounds. I mean, I pre-tuned them very slightly before I did this take, but I tried to get them as close as possible. But there is a difference here, and it's almost the difference to me in my ears that we've got the modelling here is fundamentally modelling the sound in the 100% perfect condition, and of course they're not taking into account that this sound then goes on further through more electronics in this machine, and it's like they've taken all the noise, for want of a better word, from the circuit itself, and you've just got the raw data here, and it sounds a little bit more sterile. That's the TR8. It's very clean. It's almost too precise. Now we listen to the 909. The tuning's a bit wobbly. The sound has got a little bit more character to it. And I'll just let you listen to that a few more times, and I'll go back to the TR8 and you'll hear the difference. So there you have it. There's another small difference. Doesn't really matter. You're not going to hear it in the mix. But this is another thing I saw recently. Someone said about one of these machines. Well, you're going to record it digitally anyway, so it's going to be digital anyway. Well, I'm not really going to. I don't really want to get into that. But let's face it. If you're recording digital with digital, you've already lost your fucking data, mate. You know, it's already gone. Because you're downsampling every time you record it. You're downsampling, and as anyone who does anything to do with digital knows, if you don't have the data to begin with, Every time you downsample it, you're just going to lose more and more and more. So by the time, let's say you're going to cut a record with this, you're going to record it. Okay, maybe you're going to use the integration. You're going to record it into your computer. Then you're going to run some sort of EQs on it, and you're going to bounce that. And then you're going to send it to your mix engineer, who's going to bounce it through another system. And every time, something's going to be a bit lost. But if you've got an analog instrument, you've got essentially infinite data on the first take. So the first take, you're quantizing that. That recording is a quantizing of the sound. Where with a digital, it's already digital. Think about that for a minute. Anyway, let's move on to the next sound. This is the rim shot. Let's just turn that one down again. This is the rim shot on the TR8. And on the TR909. Tuning's a little bit different, but it's such a short sound anyway. There we go. Bit closer. That's the 909. That's the TR8. Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's pretty spot on, but I don't think we're hearing any subtle difference because the sound is a really, really short sound. So, I mean, if it was a longer stretched out sound, maybe you'd hear a difference. But yeah, that's pretty good. It's better than the 808 rim shot, because the 808 rim shot, I was not, actually, if I'm honest, I wasn't that impressed with it. It didn't sound right. It sounded wrong. That was another one of these small faults. But again, this can be hopefully fixed with firmware. If Roland don't take a dump on the Aira range, like they did with the early MC ranges, where they just, or you know, some of this stuff where they've released one update and that's it, we've done an update, let's move on. Yeah, they're a corporation and that's the shit they do, but it would be nice if they actually stood behind their product, something like this, a new product, for like 2 or 3 years at least, of decent updates, like someone like Electron does. I mean, they should take lead from these guys, because they really know how to, they get it right as much as they can, and any revisions they get right later, and they actually do them. But let's hope Roland do, because there's so much potential here. There really is. But we just don't know how much of the memory's inside, how much of it's being used, how much has been reserved for future development, and so on. And are the updates going to be free? That's another question. I mean, are they going to expect us to pay? I mean, do you think that's fair? I mean, you buy a computer, you buy new software. Do you pay for that? Yeah, you do. So, what's the difference? Yeah, anyway. Rim shot on a 909 again. A TR8. Pretty good. Okay, let's move on to the hand clap. And let's listen to that on the TR8. The tuning is at 50%, decay at 50% as well. Let's listen to that on the 909. Okay, that's the 909. That's the TR8. It's very similar, although it sounds like this has been high passed a little bit on the 909. And this is actually part of the main outs that does that. Yeah. Okay, that's close as I think I can get it. That's the TR8. This is the 909. And again, here's another one with the volume. This one's too loud. Look at this. This is the 909's at maximum here, with the master at maximum, and it's the channel. It's like peaking at -2 dB. Now we go back to the TR8, and it's actually clipping the output there. Okay, that's. I'll try and get to -2. There you go. And as you can see, this is too loud. The kick and the snare is too loud. The hand clap's too loud. And what you'll hear is later, these ones are going to be too quiet. There you go. There you go, Roland. They didn't believe it when I said it to them. No, there's no problems. Well, if you've got a problem with your TO8, I suggest you actually want it fixed, you're going to have to write to Roland. Just take a minute to go to the Roland website and just write to support and say the levels are wrong. Just tell them the levels are wrong on the TO8. Fix it. Fix the tuning, fix the levels. And if they get enough of these emails, they actually will do something. This is what the guy Roland was telling me. Yeah, we'll fix stuff if enough people will say it. So if you don't say it and you got one of these, don't bitch about it, because if you don't write to them and tell them, they don't care. They're not going to hear you. It's the information age. Get on the internet, tell them what you want, they'll fix it. If enough of you do it, they will actually fix it. That's a 909 clap. That's the TR8. Let's turn the decay up so we can get the tail sounding a bit similar. That's with the tails up. It's almost too much here now. Hang on. That's the TR8. And that's the 909. Yeah, it sounds like the filter is a little bit different there. But anyway, let's get to the hi-hats, everyone's favourite. Let's just put a closed hi-hat in here. And let's have a listen to it. That's with 50% decay, 50% tuning. Now we only have, on the 909 we don't have a tuning, so we only have decay. Let me just select the instrument. Oh, that's an open hi-hat, that's the wrong one. There we go. 50% decay, 909, TO8, pretty close. And the volume levels are pretty close. So I think maybe someone got a bit over enthusiastic with the snare drum and the kick drum and the claps when they were designing this, because that sounds about right. That's the TR8. And that's the 909. The levels are kind of similar here. Again, the new one is a lot cleaner. Again, this is the 909. That's the TR8. And let's turn the decay up to maximum now. It didn't really make a lot of difference, did it? That's 50%. That's 100%. Let's try that on the 909. 50%. 100%. Yeah, it's a little bit longer. So what happens if we completely close it? That's the 909. You just got that nice little transient there. And let's do the same thing over here. Yeah, it's just got the transient, which is nice. And they're actually at that point, because the sound is so short, they're almost indistinguishable. That's the 909. That's the TR8. This is together. And you can hear that little phase. Yeah. So let's go and have a listen to the open hi-hat. Tuning 50%, decay 50%. We don't have tuning over here, so we might have to adjust that a bit. Let's have a listen to it on the 909. That's the 909. That's too loud. Oh, that's right, we didn't have the accent on that one. There we go. Very similar. Let's put the decay to maximum on the 909. And you can actually hear, even on a 909, because it's a sample, it closes very abruptly. T08. I mean, it's obviously the same sample. And yeah, maybe that sample was represented as the ROM file that it originally was in the original circuit. I doubt it. It's just a sample, let's face it. I would imagine they just modelled the circuit around the sample. I mean, this is just very, very slightly cleaner, but I don't think you're going to hear the difference there. And let's move on to the crash cymbal. Have you noticed these sounds are almost at the maximum compared to these three, which are like right down here at the bottom to have a, so it's kind of annoying. But you could solve this by routing these to separate outs, so it's not the end of the world. Anyway, okay, let's have a listen to the 909 cymbal. And let's have a listen to it on TR8. And the tuning's a little different. Very similar again. These are just samples again with the VCA. You know, the 909 uses basically samples on the VCA, and that's what's happening. They've obviously used a sample and modelled the VCA. Let's have a listen to the tuning range then. Right, this is TR8. Let's go to maximum. Oh, that's decay. So tuning. Nine. TR8. I mean, that's pretty spot on. Minimum tuning. Marginally slightly out. But I don't think that's really important at all, is it? Let's have a listen to the ride. That might be important because people like to tweak the ride on these things. Anyway, let's put the tuning to the middle on both units and the level up to maximum. Let's just listen to it on the 909. And listen to it on TR8. Tuning's a bit different, but that's the TR8. That's the 909. This one is a little bit below, and this one is a little bit above the 12 o'clock mark. So we could just put that down to age, tuning differences between analog circuits and machines. But minimum. Oh, this is the decay. Sorry, tuning. You don't have a decay on the original. Yeah, the tuning, again, like with the crash, the tuning is a little bit wrong here. It might just be my unit. Let's go to the maximum tuning. Right, this is TR8. And the 909. So the maximum tuning is a little bit different. But it almost seems like the range is the same, but the center offset is different. But I don't think that's really important at all. Do you? Do you really think that's important? I don't know. So, well, there you have it. I mean, that's the 909 section done. Oh, there's one other thing to try, is to see if we get the phasing between the snare drum and the hand clap. So let me just program that over here. I think that's probably already done. So if I turn that one down, yeah, we've got the This is the snare drum. The hand. Can you hear that? There's a phasing sound. That's the snare drum on its own. That's a hand clap on its own. And together there's a very slight phase because they're using the same noise circuit, but just that very, very tiny little bit of delay. Now let's have a listen to see if that is true on the TR8. So we've got the hand clap. And let's have the snare drum. Now together they should phase. And they do. Well, they got that right. So basically they did, you know, they have really tried to do this as well as they can. Obviously there is room for improvement, but let's hope that they will improve it, because it's, you know, overall I think, in my humble opinion, it's not an 808, it's not a 909, but it's certainly, absolutely, and 100% is a TR. Now you can take from that what you will, and if you're looking, like I say, if you're looking for these sounds, I mean, this is really the stuff that the MC stuff should have been in the 90s, but perhaps they didn't have the technology to do it at an affordable scale, so that's why they use rumplers. But yeah, everyone would have liked this to be an analog machine, and if they had made it analog, it wouldn't have been so affordable. I really think that, you know, you would have been looking. You look at a boutique manufacturer like Electron. I know I've mentioned them before, but they're a good example of what people really want, but they're more cutting edge than Roland ever were, really. And let's be honest about this. They, you know, you may not like their stuff or their sound or whatever. Like, people have various opinions about everything, but they are pushing the envelope a bit. Whereas Roland kind of did all that stuff 30 years ago, and this, to them, you know, they're pushing the envelope was making a programmable drum machine. You got to remember the heritage of these things was set-top boxes essentially that went on top of people's home organs, and they'd sit there with, you know, and they'd just press a button and it would play some bossa nova beats for them, and they'd play along to it. And then along came the CR78, and then obviously you can, if you listen to all those machines, you can actually hear the progression of the sound up to the 808 and largely into the 909. But by the time they were making the 909, obviously you got to think of the era. People wanted more samples, and it was, you know, people were moving over to a digital, but not the right kind of digital with modeling, the wrong kind of digital with samples and FM. Yes, I said it, FM. FM's fine as long as you don't change the parameters, and it's fine. Anyway, I'm going to get on with this one. Let's get on and have a look at the TB3. Okay, without further ado, here is the most contentious part of the Aira comparison, or the Aira comparison, if you want to call it that. Yes, of course, it's the TB3, and because everyone, I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of hearing that no two 303s sound the same. It's true, yes, it's true, but they don't sound that different, right? Let's keep that in mind, people. So what we've got here, we've got two 303s, right? So that we're going to have the comparison. We have on the left, we have Whitey. This was, for me, a long ongoing project to rebuild a 303 from components. I mean, it is 303. It's all 303 parts. Well, the case is a 606 case, and I had to have the button panel redone at front panel express, and the custom paint job was provided by Custom Synth in the UK, and the custom control part is a MIDI bass 2 by very clever Colin Fraser. And yeah, it's basically, like I say, I basically built this from parts. And this one over here, this is what I call the museum. This is Whitey. This is the museum piece. This one I picked up from a guy, if anyone knows the drum bass scene in the south of Sweden. This used to belong to Moonbase. Hello, mate. And basically, this is the cliche 303 story. He basically picked this up from an ex-guitar player or some, you know, that sort of guy bought it in the 80s to make his own demos kind of story. didn't use it, stuck it in the cupboard. And Moonbase managed to pick this up for very, very cheap. Let's just say it that much. And I basically said to him, you know, if you're ever going to sell it in the future, just let me know. And one day I got the call, and I had to pay him the going rate, which at the time was pretty good, which was a fair price. You know, I checked it out inside; it really is as clean as they get. I mean, there's a couple of tiny little marks in it, but I mean, it's really, you're not going to get much better. And in regards to condition, and yeah, I am apparently the third owner. If the story's to be believed, I'm the third owner of this, and I'm probably the person who's used it the most. So we have two comparisons. This one to me sounds like the best 303 that has passed my bench because I built it out of the pieces, and it does sound good to me. But it's all 303 here. And the TB3, of course, you know, is Roland's new attempt to rebirth these classics in a small digital chaos pad looking monstrosity. If you're to believe the internet rumours, yes, everyone says it's ugly. I don't think it's that bad. These, yes, okay, these are works of art. They really did get the aesthetic right with the 303. It looks awesome. It does. It captures that 80s boombox retro plastic, you know. I mean, of course, we have the TT303 these days, which is really funny because I like, my favourite comment about that is that the TT3, they managed to take something so plastic and make it more plasticky. In this case, Roland have happened to make their new baseline look more like a competitor's product. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a listen. They're running. As you can see, they're running away. Let's get on with this. Okay, and I've set the controls. I've put this, because we've got the mod, the envelope mod is now on this touchpad. I've put that to maximum. So I put all the envelope mods, the accent, everything's on maximum on everything, right? Except for the cutoff and resonance, which are about 50%-ish. Now, I've programmed a pattern in these, which is basically a workout. It's gonna, if there's any differences, you're gonna hear it, because I'm trying to use accents and slides and octaves and whatnot to try and highlight any differences if there are any. So let's have a listen to Whitey. Right, you got that burned in your mind. Let's listen to the TB3. Let's have a listen to the museum piece. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through that again. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to turn one up and one down, and we'll go YT TB3 to the museum piece. But then I'll also switch to waveforms, because at the moment we're listening to the square waves. So let's just have a listen to that again. And then I'll switch to saw waves, and you can tell yourself if you think they're accurate or not. They're pretty close, but something may be being lost. Obviously, when you're listening to this, you'll be listening to this via YouTube. It'll be already digital and compressed, and all the extra stuff will be lost. But I'm listening to this right here with these things in front of me with a pair of headphones, and I can honestly tell you this sounds digital. Yeah, okay, it does. It does. But it still sounds acid, and it still sounds pretty cool. Um, I don't know what you want really. I mean, it's a £250 unit. It's not, it's not what you wanted it to be. It's not, but it's not as bad as you want it to be. Unfortunately, it's also not as good as you want it to be. It's kind of just is. It is a TB3, and that's it. I mean, what more can I say? Let's have a listen to it again. But now this time I'm going to tweak the knobs a little bit on each synth, and you will hear how digital sometimes the resonance sounds on this. Right, let's go first over to Whitey and just turn the resonance to maximum. I'll do the rest on all of these, and then while the pattern's playing, I'm just going to sweep the cutoff. I mean, we're not playing with the envelope modulation, which is, they pretty much got all the twang of it is actually quite spot on. However, the actual tone isn't. Yeah, it just sounds I mean, yeah, of course, I really spend a lot of time with these things. I make clones myself, so I'm very familiar with the sound. But yeah. Anyway, let's go to Whitey. I'm going to tweak the cut. We'll go back to the square waves, and I'm going to tweak the cutoff and go through again, and then we'll switch to waveforms, and I'll tweak the cutoff again, so we'll get an idea of the sort of sound in the range. Okay. So I think you get the point. I mean, The differences between these two units is nowhere near the difference between this unit and those two units. This does not sound as good as a real 303, but did you really expect it to? I don't think you did, because if you did, you probably wouldn't be buying this product. You're more likely to be buying this if you've already bought the TR8, which in my opinion is a much better machine than this one. However, if like me you like little acid toys, this may be for you. I mean, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to use it. We'll probably use it live with Emergent Systems. Hello, Johan. Yes. But yeah, we're not really. I wouldn't really think I would record this. However, one thing I do like about this is that it has the random pattern generation. Now, I'm reluctant to take one of these, should we say, newfangled CPU modifications and put it inside my machine because, believe it or not, there's some contention whether they make them sound a bit more stiff or not. And yeah, I like the stock 303 Roland CPUs. I don't want to change that because I think it's going to change. It does change the character, but that's another argument altogether. What you've got here, you've got a cool little box that doesn't cost you too much money. It kind of sounds 303, has a few fun functions. The scatter stuff is garbage, let's face it, but it's still kind of a fun toy. But before we finish that, let me just. I'm going to unplug these cables. I'm going to stop this one, but I'm going to unplug these sync cables so that I can put these into play mode. Now, if I do that, let's see. Yes, it's been a while. There we go. Take it out of write mode. I should be able to. There we go. Now, if we come into the keyboard mode here, perhaps we can see how well it is. So it should be a C. Oh, let's turn it up. That sounds pretty authentic because they've even got the envelope modulation correct here. If you listen to that, as it goes, it decays. You hear it affecting the filter resonance. That's pretty good. In fact, it's a little bit longer on that, but this is another variance between the machines, obviously. Because this one's longer than this one. This one kind of ends abruptly, and this has a much more exponential tail. It sounds a lot more natural on the ears. Oh, that was the problem. I had the cutoff all the way down. I didn't notice that. This one doesn't always fire the accent. Well, there you have it. That kind of stuff that's very spot on. But it's actually, when it's playing the sequence, there is certainly something not quite right with the way they're rendering the resonance. Now, another thing people were saying about the overlap and the accents and all this, they haven't really implemented the MIDI on this very well, which is a bit of a shame because I would have liked to have used it to get 303 sequences out of other stuff, and you can kind of, but it's not perfect. And again, the thing about the Logic pre-roll, it happens with the TB3 as well. But no, it's not Roland's fault, obviously. No, of course not. Well, that's it. I think that about wraps it up. I've been waffling now for close to, I don't even know now. By the time this is edited up, it's been like 5 minutes of usable material. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done an XOX video. We've been doing a lot of modular stuff. Obviously, we've got a new module starting. Will be released some later this month. So keep your eyes out for the SARA VCF. And if you don't know what that is, just look at the next post on the blog. And if you're not looking at the blog, you're looking at this through YouTube, you should check out the blog. Just check out the comment section, description. It will say it's www.dinsync.info. Right here, look. Dinsync, yes. Get yourself down there if you like this kind of gear, if you like modular gear. I'll see you there. Alright, cheers for watching. I'm out.